dazzling one. I'd like to start off by thanking all of you for all of your support. It's been an entire year since I uploaded my very first video onto here, so once again I just wanted to let you guys know how thankful I am. I never thought I'd reach 2,000 subs in 1 year of making videos, which is pretty amazing. I'm sorry I haven't done a lot of research videos lately. School's been keeping me pretty busy, but I want to get to working on one soon. And if you have asked me any questions or written me in the past month or two and I haven't gotten back to you, I apologize for that, because I've been behind on that as well. Today I want to talk about something very similar to what I did in my very first video, but rather than putting an emphasis on paranormal romance, I just want to put an emphasis on how there's nothing new under the sun. You've heard me say it before, and it comes from Ecclesiastic 1:9, and you've heard others say it, and it really is true. The things we see play on our television, our news, our media, our new inventions, ideals, and breakthroughs, they really are nothing new. People have come up with them before us. I know there is a concept that there is no such thing as a new ideal, and as a creative person, I hate that saying, because I'd like to think that I'm first, but I do believe that we are influenced by those before us, and just naturally with everything that has been covered up, and the fact there's history that may not have been recorded, or it's hidden, or the history we have is one-sided, some will say that it has no validity. However, remember there are a lot of cultures today who have oral traditions. Anyways, we look back at the beginning of time, and constantly I'm referencing the days of Noah right before God flooded the earth, because Jesus said in the last days it would be as those. Because I believe we are showing signs, I just want to talk about how some of the things going on today are nothing new. One thing I can't help but notice is that there is a consciousness shift occurring amongst the masses. What I mean by this is a lot of people are going through this state of confusion, as they would say. They don't know what right or wrong is anymore. It is Aleister Crowley's wet dream, do what thou wilt. They're having trouble determining ethical from unethical, and of course, a lot of people feel because we have breakthroughs and discoveries that makes us wiser than the people who lived before us, who told a bunch of folklore, but they were actually a lot more creative than we are today, and a lot of them were describing things that we believe today to be fake. Because since we can't see them, that means that they're not real. Yet, we can't see an atom, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. As my grandmother said, each generation is weaker but wiser. What she meant by this is we can navigate technology pretty well. We know how to use the internet. We are tech savvy, yay for us. But at the same time, we are very dependent upon it, especially here in America. We don't walk anywhere. We have cars to do that. We have dishwashers who clean our dishes for us. Soon, we won't have to clean our own houses because there will be some sort of machinery invented for that as well. It's sad because you have a lot of kids graduating who won't know how to read because they have their readers. There's nothing wrong with having a reader, but one of the problems is a lot of kids, rather than reading a book assigned in English class, they get onto Google and they Google it and they get Spark Notes. Many people I know my age admit to having never picked up a book or read any in years. There are people who graduate high school who can't tell you where certain countries are on a map or where states are or the name of a capital. It's pretty bad. But that's what they want, because if people are kept ignorant, then they are easier to control. This goes back to the spiritual aspect, because you can't talk about that without mentioning how we are influenced by the spiritual realm. It goes back to the days of Noah and the fallen angels. There are still fallen angels who are not chained. The devil still runs this world. After all, he is the prince of this world. They cannot create anything new. That's why Gnostics refer to them as the archons. Even though they taught the mysteries of heaven, they were only repeating something they had seen. They are envious of the fact mankind has the ability to create because we were made in God's image and he is a creator. That is why we can write songs, books, poetry, paint, and dream of new inventions and things and so on. Why do you think the media works so hard to make people feel so incompetent? If you make stars seem like they're perfection, which angels are referred to as stars, and you look up to them as your role model, I know it's all a figure of speech, but it's still a form of conditioning. In the days of Jared, which I'm taking this from the Book of Enoch, when the watchers descended upon Mount Hermon, people looked up to them. You constantly see this played out when you go to a Paramount movie. First, they travel across the sea, which represents the marine kingdom. There is the reflecting pool. Then they go around it, representing landing on it, which the Watchers did. What I found interesting recently, when researching for something I'm writing, near Mount Hermon, there is a nature reserve called the Benias Nature Reserve. They have a spring that runs through it. And at the base there is a temple dedicated to the god Pan, who is a goat god. If you're not familiar with him, he is affiliated with fertility, hunting, and nature. The reason that the temple is there is at times Israel was conquered by Greece and Rome. February 17th of this year was Mardi Gras, and it has ties to Pan as well. They throw a huge parade in New Orleans, and I talked about this in part 2 of the movies Decoded, if you want to know more about that. What's funny is that they have the Mardi Gras around the same time that Easter or Ishtar is going to take place. But of course, that is another month or two. But this all still comes together for a reason. But I'll talk about that a little more later. Getting back to what I was saying about how they play on people's minds, when they compare everyday people to stars, which any adult understands that with money you can buy plastic surgery, makeup, a nice wardrobe, and personal trainers, which makes you look better, and under the bright lights and with some airbrushing you can make just about anyone flawless. Not to rip at stars, but in order for them to make money and sell, they want them to be perfect. Plus, they want people to lust after them. People idolize them and worship these stars, just like the Watchers wanted people to worship them, just like their children, the Nephilim, wanted people to worship them as well. Why do you think they had idols of wood and stone? I used to think that was so stupid. Why would you worship some idol? But now I see why people worship idols. It was relevant to them. It was after something they actually saw with their own eyes. Now people make fun of that. But a lot of people worship celebrities. I don't really see much of a difference. And too much of the time, many of these celebrities are possessed. Or even if they aren't, the things that they are channeling or dealing with, it's demonic. Because they make them sign contracts to sell their soul. Then there are the groupies. Most of the times people think of girls being synonymous with the term, but there are male groupies, and they chase these stars. In some folklore, one of the ways the gods made it with the women is that they would enamor them from the sky as a beautiful star, and the woman would be so overcome by the beauty of the star that they would chase them, and they would come down and mate with them, which is an interesting correlation. Then, of course, getting into some contemporary issues like terrorism, which is a broad term people use because terrorist isn't just limited to some radical Muslim that's militant that blows up things. There are terrorists that come in all forms walking around you and me every day, and of course, the war on terror helped paint the picture because people were scared by 9/11. They started 2015 off with the Charlie Hebdo thing. A lot of people were shaken by that. It's just another form of conditioning. You know my sentiments towards ISIS. I think they are backed and funded by Western powers. I do believe they kill some people for real, and then I do believe some of the killings are fake. I think those videos where they are beheading a lot of these journalists are fake. There's a number of reasons why I believe they are. Then, when it comes to the Coptic Christians, that they massacred 30 of them recently, I do believe they are killing them. Part of the plan in the last days is to get rid of the saints. Why not start with the people in your reach, then work your way over to the West? It is interesting to note that they are more familiar with the teachings from the Apocrypha as well as the Bible. It creates a lot of fear amongst Christians when they see ISIS on TV beheading Coptic Christians. The fear of ISIS, even though they believe that they're fearing the terrorist group, but really just by saying the name, they are still giving energy of fear to the demon ISIS. Whatever you fear, you give power to. This is why entities feed and thrive from it. That is why they make horror movies, so you can fill a theater full of scared people, and then the demons feed off the negative energy, and that is why usually they give you the name of the entity in the film. A lot of times what people fear, they come to obey and worship. And then quoting Machiavelli about, I'd rather be feared than loved, because people will obey you because they are afraid. Then you have the story of the kid from Ohio trying to assassinate Speaker of the House John Boehner. And then, of course, someone tried to kill Joe Biden. And then that drone that landed on the lawn of the White House. And then there was the Mall of America terrorist threat and all these security breaches. Do you really think that the national security for the White House is that inadequate? Really? I don't buy it. I think they're trying to make us think that, The terrorists are coming for us any minute. The terrorists are coming for us. They might blow something up. I could see them having a false flag, unfortunately, and killing people. After all, they don't really care about casualties. For them, the more the merrier, which is pretty messed up. The other thing they like to do is they want you to slave at work from 9 to 5, and you barely get time to spend with your family and friends except on the holidays they select for you to have off, which are modeled after pagan holidays. The Catholic Church came along and said in order to convert pagans, we were going to turn them into Christian holidays. That's what happened. That's why people think that when they do Easter, they are doing a little holiday that's representing the death of Jesus, when really they are representing Ishtar, who they believe was going to be reborn through the egg. That's why you search for an egg in an egg hunt. Bunnies have nothing to do with eggs. Bunnies have a sexual connotation to it. They represent fertility as well. You search for her to be reborn, representing also Mother Earth. Some would sacrifice Christians and dip the eggs in blood. That's where dying eggs originates from. Yeah, real Christian. That is also why Isis, which is another name for Ishtar, is sacrificing Coptic Christians just in time. Also, if you notice in the introduction, there is a connection to the garb that the ISIS killer is wearing, which is similar to the Egyptian god Khepri, also known as the Black Beetle, which is what the media called him at one point, which is also associated with rebirth. Also, beheading shares connections to the goddess Kali of destruction, which is also known for beheading her victims. And it is common in fairy tales, in order for the new queen to replace the old queen, she must behead her, and then there's the victory dance. And also, the reason people are supposed to dress up for Easter originally was because young girls were given to priests to be used for sex rituals, which I'll get to a little later when I'm talking about pedophilia. But as you can see, there's all of these connections. And then, of course, there's the connection to Pan, the god of fertility, for Mardi Gras near Easter, which is for Ishtar, who is also associated with Mother Earth. I talked about in the video I did on witchcraft about Heros Gamos, and this is also the reason Yahweh was against high places, because when people were on top of high places, it's not that he doesn't like mountains or tall places. If that was the case, then he wouldn't create something like that. Even though the Watchers came down on mountains, and remember Moses was given the 10 Commandments on a mountain, going back to the obelisk which you see on churches associated with Nimrod or Osiris, modeled after his genitalia, it is often put on churches as a steeple. Another reason, another reference to high places. It's because people would go under trees. This is the reason why God hates high places. And they would perform orgies or sex rituals, reenacting what when the gods made it with man in order to bring fertility and prosperity onto land, in honor of Pan. This whole beginning of the year into spring is all about fertility, rebirth, and Mother Earth. Spring is mating season for animals. The reason Mother Earth is because of Uranus and Gaia. Uranus came down and he made it with Gaia, the sky and the earth coming together, the woman and the angel. It all comes back to that, the false trinity, the mockery of the true trinity, the yin and the yang, the dark and the light, the hot and the cold. That's why you see red and blue for sports, although it seems totally unrelated. Summer and winter, good and evil, duality, the checkerboard floor, the interconnectedness coming together, flowing into one. The whole ideal of Freemasonry, when the man and woman come together, they form the square compass with the G in the middle representing God. But it's more of angel and woman coming together, creating a new race. The reason they want us to spend all of our time going to work from 9 to 5 or school is so you can come home and be stressed, which stress is never good for anyone, and it has very bad effects on your health. And then you turn on the TV and you see news reports about terrorism, and then you're afraid, and then you enter for entertainment and you watch your favorite shows, which they put a lot of innuendos in them, and they're meant to distract and program. Time is valuable, and that is why the elite obsess over it. That is why Satan obsesses, because he knows his time is short, and he's not very fond of the ideal. And Revelations 12:12, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of earth and of the sea, for the devil is to come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time, and that is why he likes to utilize your time by worrying and being stressed. As you can see, he desires to control time and make humans' lives as miserable as possible while they are on Earth. I was just thinking, whenever I would travel, I would see so many beautiful places. I go to South Dakota, and I love the Black Hills, and I love the grassy land, or to LA, and the gorgeous beaches and the mountains, or Mexico, or wherever. I also just see how there is so many impoverished people. I talked about this in my last video, how poverty creates its own problems. A lot of people don't go out and enjoy the beauty of their land. Think of people in third world countries. They have beautiful land, beautiful, but there is so much war and so much other things that they have to deal with that they have no time for it. And it saddens me. But it's all part of the plan to get us not to enjoy the beauty of this world God gave us. I've heard people say that what we experience now is nothing compared to what we would experience in heaven or in the new earth that will be made, or before the fall of mankind. I believe that is true, but it's still disheartening that there is so much lovely nature around us, but so many people fail to enjoy it. I also didn't mention this in my last video, but I'll mention it now. I remember when I went to Las Vegas, I would see bums lying on the sidewalks of bus stops sleeping, who had probably gambled away all of their money, which is another trick to obsess over money, because when you obsess over money, it becomes your God. It is what you live for. That is why we are warned about the love of money. Then you go to the other side of town and you see all these nice casinos and people on vacations having a good time. You just see this polarity in every city you go to. It doesn't matter where in the world you go, there's always going to be the uber rich and the dirt poor. Then there are the people in the middle who save up money to go on vacations and have decent things, and who basically keep the system going. But I feel they are soon going to try to do away with that because they have this need to feel more powerful. I remember when it comes to worry, since I'm talking about it, because so many people constantly are preoccupied about their jobs, bills, finances, and stuff like that. When I was younger, I thought to myself, I have nothing to worry about today, because I was constantly always worried about this and that. It finally dawned on me it was unnatural to constantly feel a need to worry. It was just another trick of the enemy. A dependency on worry. None of the stuff that is happening now is really new at all. Even all the movies they are putting out, it's just mythology rehashed and old stories retold. Why do you think they are doing so many remakes? They're out of ideals. It's the same story with new faces, characters over and over. I discussed this in the movies Decoded a lot. The last subject I wanted to touch on is how the agenda of pedophilia is really being pushed. We see stuff like 50 Shades is a big deal because it's mainstream erotica and more people are getting into BDSM, which is sickening to me. I don't see how people get off on masochistic behavior. But just society as a whole is becoming more desensitized. I feel with 50 Shades of Grey, it has elements of pedophilia in it. The main character, although 21, is a consenting adult, and she is a virgin, which represents innocence and has childlike tendencies. Someone told me that the way she looked at him throughout the film was the way a child would look at their parent, trustingly, which is gross. Also, I notice on Lifetime they keep on making all these movies about high school girls prostituting themselves to older men for money, which they're underage, and a lot of girls see this. And what's sad is, I remember when I was sitting in class one day and I heard someone say, the only reason I smoke, I drink, is to rebel. I do it because it's illegal. And I thought to myself, wow, that's what they want you to do. And that's exactly why they put out these films, is, look, this person's doing these bad things, they're getting money, hint, 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 don't do it. But most people say, I'm not stupid, I can get away with it. And it gets to a lot of people. And then, of course, I was telling someone with child stars, they are cute as children, and then they hit 18 and they suddenly sexualize themselves, and then the ones with baby faces especially, which I understand as someone at the age of 20 that is oftentimes mistaken for a high school kid, it's annoying. But I see how they use this as a weapon, because when you see these girls and they're dressed in these scantily clad clothes, they look like underage girls behaving sexually. And it turns pedophiles on, and even a lot of men who wouldn't think that way naturally start to think like that. And the girls are perfectly legal, so no one can say anything. And they have a fan base of younger girls, and they start emulating them. And some parents let their kids walk around dressing provocatively, and men will look despite the age, sadly enough. It's this push to steal innocence. Also with food, that they put a lot of growth hormones in them to make girls mature faster. Even with the Elastic Hearts video by Sia, my little brother brought this to my attention, that the little girl, Maddie Ziegler, was only 12 years old, and she was dancing with Shia LaBeouf, and they were wearing skin suits. It was really creepy because it gave me a pedophile vibe. And people were celebrating, calling it art. When I saw the thumbnail, I didn't realize she was only a child because she had her head down. But when I actually watched it, I realized she was, and I was deeply disturbed. But the media is getting people to feel comfortable with things like that. Nothing is new under the sun. In my philosophy class on Thursday, we were talking about ethical forms of reasoning and how it is so hard to make an ethical decision. They were saying no one really knows what's right or wrong. I was just thinking, it's pretty bad as a society we're getting to that point. It does warn in the Bible that in the last days good would be called evil and evil would be called good. A lot of what's going on is because people just don't know what to think anymore because they are confused. And with that, they're going to feel like whenever you try to tell them what's wrong, that you're offending them, that you're infringing upon their rights, you're being a bully, and you're mean. With all of this sensitivity, that's what they want. So as a society, we can have Aleister Crowley's wet dream, do what thou wilt. That's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. Nothing new is under the sun. I would like to thank you guys again for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Take care, and God bless.